We've had a lot of positive response from our segments this year on developing garden walkways. First, if you remember, we showed you how to make a walkway using concrete pavers near the entrance of our gardens. The concrete pavers come in many shapes and colors and are laid on a sand base with the edging according to design. Then they are packed down with a plate compactor that we rented. Next, we had tremendous feedback from the Walkmaker mold that is placed on a level surface and filled with Quickcrete. A dye can be worked into the fresh mixed surface to give some different color options. The plastic mold was then removed and set for the next location. The appearance after it is filled with pea gravel or another type of a mixture gives you a nice cobblestone appearance. Well, later on, we demonstrated how to build a pathway using crazy pavers. We laid our flat rock on a sand base, made sure they were level, and poured dried mortar mix over the rocks and swept it into the cracks. Then we turned a gentle spray of water on to wet the mix in and wash it off the rocks. In a few hours, the mix had set, forming a sturdy walkway, and we further scraped off any concrete that was on the rocks. Well, today Alan is joining me to show you again another popular paving method, this time using Instawalk pavers that are developed by Alpha Concrete Incorporated out of Oklahoma City. Now, Alan, we've taken a little different approach here, but what is the main difference with these pavers and, say, the initial ones that we showed in the first segment?
Well, those used compressed concrete, and this uses just our regular sackcrete that we can buy, same type of mixture. And they use a plastic form that they pour the concrete in, and they paint it onto the form to give us the color. And the side that we see here is the bottom of the form, and then this would be the top of the form.
Okay. Now, what particular style have we used in our formal garden here?
This is called Sotelo Adobe color, and it's when you buy them at the garden store, they'll be a little bit more redder than what our walkway has turned out to be, and it'll fade to a reddish yellow color.
Now, what is the size and the cost of these, say, in comparison to some of the others too?
Well, typically you'll find these at a garden store. They're 16 by 16 in shape, and they cost about $4.50 to $6, depending upon where you go.
So a little bit more expensive, but again, a little bit bigger product. Now, what's the thickness too?
I would say they're about 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick, and there's a little bit of variance because of the way they're made.
Okay. Now, what was the first step that we did on this particular design? What did you do to start the process?
What we initially did is we excavated about 4 inches of soil away from the edge of these raised beds and all out through where we're going to put these. And we filled it back with fill sand. And then we leveled it off a little bit and ran a plate compactor over it. The reason why we ran the plate compactor is we wanted to get as firm a surface as we could. And then we started laying at the entrances with these pavers. And then we worked out from the entrances.
Now, I know in that process there's some things that you tell me you do a little bit differently because of all the rain we've had. Why don't you comment on that?
Well, because we dug out from ground level lower, we just made a clay pond out of it and filled it full of sand. So we get a little water standing in here every once in a while. And if we would have done it ground level, we wouldn't have had that problem.
Have a little bit better drainage. And of course, we're going to have to go back in and do some re-leveling, I think, too, because of all the moisture that we've had. Now, because we didn't plan this garden to put these types of pavers in, you had to do some cutting too. What did you use to cut these?
Well, we were able to find a diamond blade concrete saw, and it was a handheld monster because it took a little muscles to use, but we just drew a line wherever we wanted to cut, and it just cut through it really easy, like a carbide tip blade cutting through lumber. And we scored it or even cut all the way through it and to get our shapes to go around our diamond center bed.
And I think initially we didn't know what kind of spacing we would have, but in the long run we actually planned for some holes, some diamond shapes to go with the design here so we could put some ground covers. But we also ended up leaving some spaces where we could fill in with more types of ground covers. So when people walk in here, they can brush against them and get some of that, maybe like lemon thyme odor, that type of thing. And I'm real pleased with the way it turned out, and the color again is fading nicely and really blends in with all of the others. Now, as I understand it, Alan, too, there's also a brick, a flagstone type, and then a cobblestone, which we have some of those up by our barn. And they've also developed a new one that's one of my favorites that is called a tree slice, and it actually looks like you've taken cross-section of tree trunks, and they are very deceiving to people. When they pick them up, they're surprised at how heavy they are, but they really resemble the tree, and they're very nice. And they also have some edging materials and Insta rings, I guess, that go around trees to keep mulch in. But again, you've done a great job, Alan. We appreciate all your help, and we've got a lot of examples now of pathways here at the gardens, and we'd invite you to stop by sometime and just take a look and see what we've come up with.